Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. And tonight's Raw was held from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. Of course, this was the go-home show for SummerSlam, which is this Sunday. And before I start the review, if you haven't checked out my previous video that I put up earlier today, I'm going to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 on Saturday. That's definitely going to be a good show. It's it's the first NXT TakeOver that I am attending live, over there. So I'm going to be there for the show at the Barclays Center. So I'm looking forward to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. But if you haven't checked out my previous video, where I did a ticket unveil, or I titled it a ticket unboxing, so definitely go check it out. But tonight's Raw, I have to say, I thought it was better than the previous Raws that we got over the past weeks. But it wasn't a good show by any means, though. But there were some ups and downs with the show. But and then at the end, a shocking return, a good return also, which was awesome. But the show opened up tonight with Ronda Rousey coming out, saying Jim the Anvil Neidhart passed away, which, he did pass away today at the age of 63, where he fell in his house, and as he fell, and then he hit his head and died. But Ronda says, our father, their fathers have been raising the pillars of strength, when they are gone. And she says to Natalya to stay strong, and that, everyone, loves her. And then, a Natalya chant gets going from the crowd, which the crowd tonight in Greensboro, it was a good crowd, in my opinion. So, but then she says, Ronda says Natalya was the first person to open, the door for her, for entering, into the WWE. And she goes on to say that Alexa cheated to beat Natalya time and time again. And so Ronda says this Sunday at SummerSlam, she's going to beat Alexa and become the Raw Women's Champion. She ends up introducing Ember Moon, which Ember Moon was going to face Alexa after this segment, which originally was supposed to be Natalya. But, of course, because, of her father passing away, they had to replace Natalya with, with someone else who could face Alexa. So Ember Moon ends up coming out. Then Alexa and Alicia Fox come out. Alexa says to Ronda, she can make all the friends, that she wants, and that, her time is going to come to an end. That Ronda's time is going to come to an end. She ends up calling Ronda an overrated, overhyped rookie. And she says that at SummerSlam, it's going to, Ronda's going to be, humiliated. And Alexa says she's sick and tired of hearing about Ronda, and she's sick of Kurt Angle always coming out to protect everyone but her. And Alexa says, she talked to Constable Baron Corbin, and he gave her the right to hire her own personal security. And so 4 security guards end up coming out. They both, Alexa, Alicia, and the security guards make their way down to the ring. Alexa, we see then, cheap shots Amber Moon into Ronda. And Ronda ends up coming in. She ends up judo flipping 3 of the 4 security guards. And what was funny, the last one ended up running off. Then we saw Ronda ended up arm dragging Alicia Fox. So and that pretty much ended the segment. But it was a good opening segment to Raw. You know, I really liked it. Then we had Amber Moon versus Alicia Fox. This was a decent match. Of course we had Alicia Fox out there, Ronda Rousey out there, and it was a decent match. Amber Moon was really enjoyable in the match, and the match ended in a disqualification because Amber Moon went for the Eclipse. Looked like she was going to win the match, but Alicia Fox ended up coming in and caused the disqualification. Alicia botched because it looked like she was going to break up the count, and Ronda ends up coming in and arm drags Alicia Fox again. So, but all in all, it was a decent match. Wasn't that bad of a match. Then after that match, we saw Kurt Angle and Corbin, Constable Baron Corbin, arguing. Corbin goes over Kurt's head on matches, and Corbin ends up going to the ring, which he's in the match when Raw came back from the commercial. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre come in. They say to Kurt, why is Seth, not here yet? Because apparently Seth Rollins wasn't in the arena, or we might think he wasn't in the arena, which we'll get to, later on in the review. And Kurt Angle says that Seth had PR work in China, and that he was having traveling issues, and that he will be here tonight, that Seth will be here. And Kurt ends up telling Dolph and Drew to wait for Seth somewhere else. So that was pretty much the office segment with Kurt Angle. Then we had Constable Baron Corbin versus Tyler Breeze. This was a boring match, in my opinion. Constable Baron Corbin got the win. Hit the deep 6 on Tyler Breeze to score the win. So boring match, in my opinion. Then after the match, Corbin got on the mic and said, that he's good, and that he's going to do the same to Finn Balor at SummerSlam. And he then introduces Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal ends up coming out. Corbin says, he's not finished, and says, Balor would be fine handling 2 superstars at once. And he introduces Finn's other opponent, which was revealed to be Kevin Owens. So apparently this is going to be a handicap match, a 2-on-1 handicap match. So he then brings out Balor. Kurt Angle ends up coming out and says to Corbin that Stephanie may have approved this match, but he makes the matches. And Kurt says, it's not going to be a handicap match. It's now going to be a tag team match. And so Kurt Angle announces who Finn Balor's partner is. And it's revealed to be, of course, none other than Braun Strowman. So, then we had the match, Balor and Strowman versus Jinder Mahal and Kevin Owens. This was a decent match, but went on for too long, in my opinion. But at one point in the match, this was in Strowman's, of course, hometown. So the crowd popped for him really loudly. And Strowman continues to be good. You know, the crowd was behind him. Yeah, at one point where Strowman ended up picking up Sunil's Sin and, you know, throwing Sunil into Kevin Owens, which was crazy. And at the end of the match, Strowman ended up hitting a running power slam to Jinder Mahal to score the win. So, but then after the match, Strowman ends up chasing after Kevin Owens, and Balor was still in the ring. Corbin then comes from behind and hits Balor with the End of Days. And, you know, that pretty much ended what happened after the match. But it was a decent match between Balor and Strowman versus Jinder and Kevin Owens. Although, you know, it went on for too long, in my opinion. And then we had Kurt Angle calling Seth Rollins, tells him, you know, leaves a message on his phone, on Seth's phone, telling for Seth to call Kurt back. Then we had Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre come back. Drew speculates if Seth is scared, and, you know, he says that he and Dolph ended up breaking him. Dolph says beating Seth has done good for the brand, and they both wonder what will happen if Seth doesn't sign the contract, because apparently there's going to be a contract signing tonight with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler. So, and Kurt tells Dolph Seth will be here tonight. So, and then Dolph wants to see the contract to see if they messed up anything with the contract. And Dolph ends up, you know, playing around, messing with Kurt Angle, saying that they misspelled his last name, that they misspelled Ziggler. So, but that was kind of funny, though. Then we had this jobber guy named Ricky Roberts. And he's out there saying, you know, his favorite musician is Elias. And he says one day he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And that, you know, Elias will come to his face and say, you know, these magical words. And by the time he was going to say that, Elias ended up interrupting and coming out. And Elias says to Ricky if he can impress him tonight, if Ricky can impress him tonight, if he beats and humiliates Bobby Lashley. And so then Elias, you know, was there. He was on the stage, sitting on a stool. He starts talking about his career, you know, how his career is going, and he ends up promoting his concert, which is going to be here during SummerSlam weekend. It's going to be at the Gramercy Theater in the city, in Manhattan. And it's going to be on Saturday before NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. And Elias says at SummerSlam he will perform his greatest song. which, oh, I don't want to hear that. And Lashley ends up coming out and tells Ricky that they've already got, one no talent clown who plays guitar. You meaning, Elias. And so Ricky ends up hitting his guitar, breaking the guitar, on Lashley's back, and Lashley didn't feel a thing. And so Lashley then hit Ricky with a vertical suplex, and that pretty much ended the segment. Which it was supposed to be a match though, but they didn't end up calling it a match. So, but yeah, that was that. Sorry about that, but yeah, that was that with Bobby Lashley and Ricky Roberts. This jobber. And then we had the B team backstage, of course, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas is upset because, he's upset because the odds of him and Curtis Axel winning and retain the Raw Tag Team Championships are lower. And Curtis Axel says, even if this fails, it was the best, run of their lives, and they're gonna run for their lives. It's pretty much basically Bo Dallas was doing like math, and they were like, oh, we're not good at math. So pretty much it was basically that backstage segment with the B team, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. Then we had them versus Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt, and the Revival. It was a triple threat tag team match for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Of course, when the B team came out, their shitty new entrance music, the B team, go, go, go. It should be B team, shit, shit, shit. Because of their shitty ass new music. But yeah, anyways, this match wasn't that bad. It was a decent match between these tag teams. The Revival was decent in the match. They were my pick to win the titles tonight. But in the end, the Revival, they ended up hitting the Shatter Machine to Bray Wyatt, which looked like they were gonna, win the tag team, be the new Raw Tag Team Champions, which I thought it was gonna be it. But of course, Curtis Axel came in and pushed Scott Dawson out of the ring. Curtis Axel made the cover on Bray Wyatt, and the B team still retained the Raw Tag Team Championships, which the Revival got screwed tonight. They really did get screwed, because this was their chance to be the Raw Tag Team Champions, which people want. People want the Revival to be Raw Tag Team Champions, but WWE ended up screwing them over, or WWE Creative ended up screwing the Revival in a horrible way. So, but all in all, the match itself, it was decent, but not too happy about the Revival. Getting screwed. Sorry about that, but I was saying not too happy that the Revival got screwed tonight in that match, which they should have fucking won it. So then we had Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre come back to Kurt Angle. Dolph says to Kurt, that Seth has to have a corner. Seth has to have a cornerman. Seth has to have somebody in his corner. And Kurt ends up telling Dolph, it's a standard, and he could take it out, if he wants. And then if he does that, he's going to have to send Drew McIntyre to the back. And Dolph says it's fine and that none of it matters. And he goes on to say that Steph isn't going to be here to sign it. So that was that. And then we have Roman Reigns come out. Says, he wants to leave this place better than he's found it. And he says for Lesnar to go. He says for Lesnar to go because, he's sick of hearing about him. And it's going to end this Sunday at SummerSlam. And Roman says at SummerSlam he's taken back the Universal Championship. And he's going to send Lesnar so far back into the UFC. So out comes Paul Heyman saying, Roman is the purported future. And he says, he is the purported future of the Universal Championship. And Reigns, he says Reigns wants to make history. Why wait until SummerSlam when, Roman could make history tonight? And Heyman says Heyman says to Roman that he can tell Lesnar's dirty big secrets, and that he could do that. And then, Heyman pictures him in Roman's corner, saying, it's not going to be a prediction, it's going to be a spoiler, and that, Roman, will beat Lesnar at SummerSlam and be the new Universal Champion. And Roman says, he knows it all, and he doesn't need Heyman's insight. And, he says, he beat Brock in Saudi Arabia, and it would have ended. It would have ended a lot quicker than that if, it wasn't for Paul Heyman. And Paul admits, he's guilty because of that. Then, Paul Heyman starts, talking to Roman about, his parents, Roman's parents, his mother, his father. And then we saw Paul Heyman then pepper sprayed Roman. Roman was blinded, couldn't see anything. Brock Lesnar was here tonight. He ends up coming out. Roman was still blinded from the pepper spray. Lesnar comes out, ends up kneeing Roman, and he ends up putting Roman into a guillotine choke. Starts choking out Roman to make Roman pass out. So then he unhooks the choke, walks up the ramp, and we see that he's not done with Roman. So Lesnar ends up coming back and just, gives a F5. He hits an F5 on Roman. So, but yeah, it was a okay segment with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. It was pretty we all knew that Brock Lesnar was going to be here tonight, so because he's got to be here for the go home show. So, but yeah, still not looking forward to that match. Still not looking forward to Roman versus Brock at SummerSlam. And from what I heard, that's going to be the main event of SummerSlam. Which I hope to God the people at the Barclays Center, they're all gonna probably leave during that main event, or start chanting, beat the traffic, or there's gonna be beach balls flying around possibly. They're all gonna start doing the wave. I can picture that happening. That's gonna happen. I can picture it. We all know that's going to happen. The crowd is going to shit on that match. Then we had Titus O'Neil, Apollo Crews, and Bobby Roode versus the Authors of Pain and Mojo Rawley. This was a 6-man tag team match. This match was short. Wasn't really anything good that happened in this match. Titus O'Neil, Apollo Crews, and Bobby Roode got the win. Bobby Roode ended up pinning the Glorious DDT to Mojo Rawley to score the win. It was a short match. Nothing good or great happened in the match. Then we had they did a tribute to Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Really great tribute. You know, sad that he passed away. He passed away today. Prayers go out to his family, the Hart family, Natalia, and also TJ, which was sorry about that, but I was saying it's hard, sucks that Jim the Anvil Neidhart passed away today. Really sad. I said thoughts and prayers go out to the Hart family, Natalia, her husband, Tyson Kidd, because he's a part of that family also. But his real name is T.J. Wilson, but you just call him Tyson Kidd. So, but really sad. But it was a really great tribute, video package tribute to Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Then after that we had Ruby Riott versus Sasha Banks. We had Bayley out there and Sarah Logan, Liv Morgan. This was an okay match. Wasn't perfect or great by any means, but really happy to see Ruby Riott back in action in the ring after coming off the injury that she had. And Ruby Riott ended up getting the win with a roll up on Sasha. Score the win because there was interference with Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan. Bayley ended up coming over, taking out Liv Morgan. So that led to Ruby Riott getting the win, pinning Sasha. So, but overall, the match itself was okay. Then we had after that match, we had a crew member telling Kurt Angle that there was no sign of Seth Rollins. Corbin berates Kurt for waiting all this time to make it official, and Corbin ends up saying to Kurt that Stephanie is not going to be happy with this. Tell him all he has to do is make matches, and he couldn't even do it right. So that's pretty much the offer segment with Kurt Angle and Corbin. Then we had the main event, which Kurt Angle was in the ring. He's saying he likes to address the attack that Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman brought on Roman Reigns. And he announces that the medical examiners say Roman can compete at SummerSlam, which, no duh, he has to compete at SummerSlam. And he says he's not going to, Kurt says he's not going to suspend Roman. No, he's not going to suspend Lesnar, I'm sorry. He's not going to suspend Lesnar or strip him of the Universal Championship. And he says for Roman to kick Lesnar's ass and win the Universal Championship. And, Just like he said, you know, he ended up calling Brock Lesnar the worst Universal Champion. And so Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre come out. Dolph says, you know, Seth is not here. And he ends up telling Kurt to call off the match because Seth is not here. And Kurt Angle ends up trying to call out Seth. You know, he calls him out twice. Seth didn't even come out. And so Dolph tells, you know, Kurt to call off the match. It's done. And so Dolph ends up going on to say, you know, Seth was a great champion. And, you know, Seth couldn't beat the both of them. Couldn't beat him and Drew McIntyre. So, you know, he says, oh, so Seth ended up quitting. Drew McIntyre says, you know, they both respect Seth. And, you know, that they formed their alliance to effect, you know, change and root out complacency. Dolph says, you know, Seth's mistake was busting his ass for the fans. And, you know, they love when, he says, you know, the fans love when Seth burns it down. He also says, you know, but they forget, you know, they used to love himself, you know, stealing the show. And Dolph says the crowd turned his back on him. And that, you know, they'll turn on Seth and the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And he says that he has a guy who has his back, which is Drew McIntyre. Excuse me. And so Dolph says, you know, he doesn't care about any of the fans or stealing the show. Because he and Drew just, you know, care about taking over. And Kurt then gives Dolph the contract. He signs the contract to make it a forfeit for Seth. So Seth Rollins ends up coming out, which, you know, Seth, of course, is here. And Seth says, you know, he's sorry we had to sit through Dolph's therapy session, which was funny. And Seth says, you know, he was here for a while, but, you know, didn't want to come out until Dolph signed the contract. Because, you know, he was worried that he'd change his mind once he had to hear what Dolph had to say. And so, sorry about that again, but like I was saying, you know, Seth said, you know, he didn't want to come out until Dolph signed the contract because he was worried that he changed his mind once he had to hear what Dolph had to say. And Seth said, you know, he was dealing with travel issues, but it wasn't his travel issues. And Seth says the clause of having someone in his corner was put there because he was sick of the 2-on-1 attack from Dolph and McIntyre. And he says, since Drew is in Dolph's corner, he says, a lunatic is in his. And so, Dean Ambrose ended up coming out. He ended up returning after 9 months. 9 months of him being out. And the crowd, he got such a good pop from the crowd. It was a great pop. That the crowd gave Dean Ambrose. We were really happy for his return, and the crowd was really happy for the return. So, but we all knew in the articles that Dean Ambrose was expected to come back before SummerSlam, and so he came back. He was scoring a beard. His hair was you know, he cut his hair. He didn't have, you know, the long hair no more. And so Dean and Seth run to the ring, and they take out Dolph and Drew. Seth ends up super kicking McIntyre, and it led to Dean Ambrose hitting the dirty deeds on McIntyre. Really great. It was a really great moment. And then we saw Dean ends up giving the contract to Seth. Seth ends up signing it, and they both do a fist bump, the Shield fist bump to end the show. And so yeah, so that pretty much ended Raw for tonight. But it was an awesome moment. It was an awesome moment to see Dean Ambrose return after 9 months of him being out, and it was just awesome. That's how the way you hype SummerSlam. So really happy to see Ambrose back on Raw. Hopefully he could save Raw, from Raw not being piece of shit every single week. So, but this sets up at SummerSlam. We all know this might happen if WWE does it, which I know they're probably going to. This is set up for Dean Ambrose heel turn, which he may turn on Seth at SummerSlam in his match with Dolph Ziggler. So Dean may be screwing Seth out of winning the Intercontinental Championship from Dolph Ziggler. So yeah, so that's possibly going to happen. And if it does, that will be cool. I would really like to see a heel Dean Ambrose. But hopefully WWE doesn't fuck it up. If they turn Ambrose heel, hopefully they don't fuck it up. But this is WWE. They have a tendency to fuck up. They have a tendency to fuck up shit. And we all seen it before. This is not new to us. So, but yeah, really happy, really excited to see Ambrose, return tonight. And that pop from the crowd was awesome. Literally, this whole main event segment tonight was really good. It was awesome. Dolph was good on the mic. Drew was good on the mic also. And it was my favorite segment of the night. So, yes, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow night for my SmackDown review, which is going to be the go-home show for their go-home show for SummerSlam. Oh, and I forgot to mention, tonight they had Renee Young on commentary, and I thought she was fine on commentary, although they didn't make her speak, a whole lot. I've heard her do commentary in NXT when she was doing commentary in NXT. At first, I thought she was horrible on commentary, but tonight, when she was doing the commentary that she was doing, even though she didn't talk that much, I thought she did fine, in my opinion. And it's really crazy, they have Renee Young do commentary tonight, and then her husband, Dean Ambrose, returns tonight. It's crazy. It was crazy. So, but yeah, so anyways, that's it for my review of Monday Night Raw tonight, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow night for my SmackDown review.